here again with the Irish Canna Clinic talks, and you'll find that it's me. I'm looking at a black screen on the far side here, and there's a very good reason for that, because I'm talking tonight with a grower, somebody who has had a lot of experience of growing for patients and is growing for herself. But the thing is that the nature of Ireland and its prohibition, we're not able to reveal ourselves, and that's something that has to change. There has to be an open, people have to be able to speak, and that's a little bit about how I entitled these talks was Canna We Talk Now, you know, because can we talk now? Obviously not. I've got somebody blacked out here. And, you know, I wouldn't go so far as to the embarrassment of mimicking Sinn Féin being voiced over during the 80s and the early 90s, because look where we are now. This kind of censorship and repression and all of that stuff, we have to get past all of that. So I first heard this lady, an amazing speaker, who was, like I said, she grows for herself. She was growing for a patient, and she described how she taught herself. She's self-taught, so she taught herself with YouTube videos how to grow, and how to grow to a level that is, you know, removing all the toxins, removing all the poisons and everything that could, creating a completely natural product, because it had to be given to a patient, an MS patient like myself. And so I want to introduce Green Tea, as she's known across the cannabis community. And Green Tea, how are you doing today? Blacked out as ever.
Hello, Stephen. No, sorry, I'm not going to do my Jerry Adams voice now tonight. But hello,
Right.
Stephen. How are you this evening?
Very good. A little bit exhausted, but we're ready for this, because this is a labor of love of mine, to be honest, because I want to get people. Yeah, I want to get people knowing that they can grow and knowing that it's possible. So we're gonna get you telling us all about that. So tell us how you first started growing, I guess.
Well, I was growing for a patient, basically out of necessity, because during the lockdowns, it became really hard basically to source anything off the black market. And obviously you're stuck at home, everyone is stuck at home, we're all doing little DIY projects to try and pass the time. I'm no longer caring now, but I still go for myself. That person's no longer in my life, so I'm just going for my own anxiety. But basically I learned by watching videos on YouTube, and basically practice. So you can find a lot of free resources out there about, like on YouTube, like the likes of channels like Mr. Canna or the Hippie Geeks. They're really good channels for tips on how to grow. It even, like the Hippie Geeks will even show you how to like set up your tent. There's a video. That's how I learned, because I'm really bad at reading those instruction books that come with things. So watching, yeah, so like it doesn't make, those diagrams just don't make sense to me. So watching videos and watching somebody else do it then gives you the confidence to go and do it yourself. I think it really does.
I'll be putting these contacts, just to interject there. I put all the contacts involved in this conversation into the description afterwards. So yeah, carry on, tell us.
Well, what else would I have done within that time? Actually, there's also another channel. He's on YouTube called Temple Grower, which if you're into any sort of like breeding of strains or anything like that, like crosses or anything, he's your man. And he's a great person to watch from start to finish for doing like small grows. Like if you're limited in space, he has a series on micros. And basically micros are like where you get like a tiny little pot, and you put your seed in it, and it's a feminized seed, but you don't veg it for any sort of time. You just put it straight into a 12 flower cycle, so you will get something off it, but it's not huge. So like if you're somebody who doesn't consume a lot, or if you don't have a lot of space, or even if you do have a lot of space but you want to grow like loads of different kinds at once and have loads of different flavors, you could do like 10 of these wee pots in the same space that you do, say, 2 big plants, and then get small yields off each of them, but with different strains. So that's I think for definitely for people with space issues, I definitely kind of recommend that channel.
When you say I will interrupt every now and again just to get information for, because I'm a novice and there's no doubt
Hmm.
about that. And so when you say wee pots,
I mean, like a liter or so.
yeah,
Nothing big. Like it's just a really. It's mainly for people. Like I would mention this specifically because it's for people who are limited in space, or only have a small amount of space that you want to try and do as much as you can with.
sure,
And then the hippie geeks are really good for outdoor plant nutrition, and basically when to take the plant from indoors and move it outdoors if you want to grow in it. If you have, like, if you're living in an area where you're rural enough that you could get away with doing something outdoors, that you have a space. And then Mr. Canna, he'd be the one I'd have learned the most of. It's all about, his channel is all about you know, learning how to, like, literally from the seed to the end, trimming it, like jarring it, curing it, what you should have your humidity at, what you should have your sensors doing, when you should harvest, when you should feed, all that kind of stuff, even how to mix your own kind of soil. So you get a, like, all different channels giving you all different information on um what kind of ways to grow and different techniques. But what I will say is that when you watch some of these channels, you can be like sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I don't have all this stuff. You really don't need a lot of fancy equipment. At the end of the day, it's a plant. All it needs really is light, water, and a fan. Now, you need the fan, you do, because essentially, if you don't have the fan on it from the time that it's young, if it doesn't have any moving air, the stem won't strengthen. So then when you get
right.
to flower and your buds start to swell, it'll just collapse over. So you need to have a fan on it, and then you need, for flower at least, a dehumidifier. It doesn't have to be a big one. But if you're growing in the winter, you may not need it, but it's definitely advised to have it, because that keeps basically the air in the tent from getting too wet. Because when you get to late flower, the big thing that you're looking out for are things like mold and mildew, because that just ruins it, and then you've wasted all your time, and you can't smoke any moldy bud. So keeping your conditions well, like, those are basically the only things that you really need. And you can buy whatever kind of food that you can afford, buy the best that you can afford. There's places like the growshop.ie. These are Irish businesses then that you're supporting, like
Yeah,
local Irish businesses where you can buy your nutrients. Um, so it's I
everything is accessible, is what you're saying.
exactly, yeah. The tools are there, and you can buy the seeds legally. They're sold as souvenirs, so you can buy
Yeah,
them. There's Irish seed banks, or you can buy them directly from breeders, whatever you
it's
feel
like
like
a
doing.
bag of dreams.
Exactly. So, like, you need your air basically on the plant to keep it circulated. You need your dehumidifier. You need your feed. You'll find loads of different types of feed online.
We're
My
talking
advice.
indoor here. We're talking indoor here. So are we talking like you were using like one of these custom designed tents and
Yes, so I have a spider farmer tent.
right.
It's only a small one now, because I used to have bigger ones, but because I'm only growing for myself now, I only have the one. So something like 80 centimeters by 80 centimeters, and then 120 centimeters tall. So it'll
That'll
take, like,
accommodate the lights and everything that you
yeah.
need inside a
So
mini grow.
I have, basically, I use LED panel lights, because even though they are more expensive to buy than like a ballast and a bulb, long run they're economically much better, because they're LED. They don't use half as much power as a bulb. They don't generate as much heat. Much more discreet then for you on your power bills. And they have a switch on them to flick them from veg growth to flower, so you don't have to start swapping out to different types of bulbs when your plants grow. So those are the ones that I use for mine. I have a Spider Farmer SF 2000. if anybody wants to look that up. There are cheaper alternatives like Mars Hydro, which are supposed to be
We'll
very
have
good.
it in the description.
Okay. And then the nutrients that I use Advanced Nutrients pH Perfect. Now, I would advise this if you can afford it to do this, to use them, because if you're living in an area with like, chlorinated water or whatever, your
Sure.
pH can sometimes be affected. And if your pH isn't correct when you feed it in your water, when you feed it to the plant basically cannot absorb any nutrients from the soil or from the feed that you give it. So what I would do as an old grower's trick that I was taught when I started was to just take your bucket of water, like if you're using tap water, say, and they're adding stuff to it, take your water out a day in advance, just leave it sit in the bucket, let anything evaporate before you start mixing anything. And then the pH perfect then will give it it'll give it the nutrients it needs, and
Is
then
that
it
after the
will
fact?
also
Is that after the fact that you're adding that pH neutralizer? Or
well, you don't need to add a pH neutralizer with this. It's included in the feed itself.
right?
So that's why I think it's brilliant, because I wouldn't have a clue how to use pH meters or anything like that to see what, and I wouldn't have the patience to learn, to be honest. So like, you have your jug there, you add your nutrients to your water, and it will pH the water for you, so the plant's able to uptake everything. So
Okay.
that's like, and once you get more experience, then you could maybe try with other feeds. But for beginners, I think that's always best, because it just removes the risk of you damaging your yield by, like, getting nutrient lockout, basically is the term for it. It's
Nutrient
where
lockout, technical.
exactly. Exactly. So it's where your pH is off and your plant can't get to anything that you're giving it. So
No,
um
just to dig a little bit deeper into your experience, were you a green thumb? Did you grow tomatoes and stuff before you ever
no.
just
um
complete novice?
no, yeah, like I was kind of, it was circumstances that forced me into it, but I fell in love with it very quickly. Like cannabis, to smoke it is not addictive to me, but growing it is.
Right.
It's
How
a
about that?
very, it's a very like it's a very kind of peaceful kind of hobby to have. And every day, because like you can grow different types of seeds, and autoflowers are feminized basically, and like every day you're going down, there's, because at the start, like when I used to have a big grow, I had what is called a staggered grow. So I'd have one finishing this week, and then another finish in 2 weeks, and then another finish in 2 weeks after that.
Okay.
I'm planting a new one every week, so that you wouldn't always be like have, say, 5 to harvest at once, where it would be really time consuming. And it's just to keep the workload down on yourself, so that you're not trying to manage like 5 plants in late flower or whatever.
Yeah.
um so that's the way that I like to do it. And you learn pretty
What
quick.
can you
Mhm.
expand just on what's incriminating here because of the where we are in the
Well, and
prohibition?
it's basically just even pot once the seed's germinated, like once it's even like a little seedling, it's like something like €800 a plant. That, like, if you're caught growing it, um, you are prosecuted then, more so than you would be. Like if I went out and bought it off a street dealer, even though I wouldn't know what's in it, it's legally safer for me to do that than it is for me to grow it, because when they see cultivation, then they see that you're intent on supplying someone. But
Line.
I only want to supply myself. Like I don't want to supply anyone else. And like the money that like I have, it's not just that I enjoy the grow. It's really not just that. It's like morally, I don't want to be giving my money to someone where it's eventually going to funnel its way up to the food chain, to like the likes of Daniel Kinahan, who wants
Yeah.
to start who'll use it to start buying his influence in high levels of society that he should not be anywhere near.
Making
Um,
himself a
I have
boxing
ex-
kingpin, you know?
exactly. I have a real moral thing against that, so I don't want to have to participate in that. But there's a lot of people that don't have the luxury that I have of either A, being able to grow, or B, having the space to do it, or the
Right.
know-how, or the time, or anything like that. And they're just basically subject to the whims of the black market. There's no quality control on what you get there. But it is safer from a legal perspective. Like, it would
Yeah.
be much safer for me to buy it than it is
This
for
is
me
what's
to grow it.
happened. This is what's happened, Patrick Moore. I mean, Patrick
Mm-hmm.
Moore now, as we speak today, I think he's about 140 days in jail. He went in December the 2nd, and you know, banged him up for Christmas. A young family, you know, big hole at the Christmas table. Shocking. You know, all he had was like yourself. He had the skills, and then he got the reputation for. He obviously had the skills to extract, and was
Mm-hmm.
extracting and making oils. And so, I mean, he's never really never sold for profit, and that's quite clear. He had several patients. He had one guy with Crohn's disease who I believe had regained the power of his voice using Patrick's oils, and a range of different condition patients, you know. So it's like but he went down for 5 years. I mean, it is so shocking. And it was basically on the basis of he had a bunch of plants and he was growing. And they're in whatever stages they were in. And the Gardaí had I don't know, their criteria that that can happen. And you can end up in jail for 5 years. So it is shocking prohibition that's out there. So
Mm-hmm.
this is why you're blacked out, you know?
Yeah, see, that's it. I mean, that man does not deserve to be in prison. And when he does get let out, and I hope he gets let out very soon,
Yeah, has to.
and I'm sending all my wishes to any of his family if they're listening in, but like, he should be compensated by the state, and he should, in an ideal world, if we were to fully legalize tomorrow, it would be people like him who have been affected by the war on drugs that would be getting the licenses to grow
Like
medical
yourself
cannabis.
as well,
Yeah.
because you're growing with the heart as well. That's another thing that I really get from you, and the original kind of those original interviews you did is that you're growing with you know, you're paying attention to the mold, everything, anything
Hmm.
that's toxic, you want it out of the plant, and so
Hmm.
that you're delivering to patients who need
Yeah.
a pristine product, and so that you're creating safe access. So, I mean, you're the guys, and we're rich in Ireland with people like yourselves, Patrick Moore, and a bunch of other people. I know people, you know, that are up in West Cork and different areas that are growing for patients and patients in very bad cases, and who need the medicine. And so, you know, you're the guys we need on the far side, because this prohibition will end, has to end, and I believe that it might end hopefully sooner rather than later, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. And just on a question that you asked me earlier about, like, was I ever any good at growing? I don't know if you ever did one of those little aptitude tests in sixth year in school, you know, when you're doing your leaving cert and they're telling you what you should
I
do
was
after
good
you leave
at
school.
that.
Well, I had no clue what I wanted to do when I left school, but I filled in one of those and I found it there about 6 months ago, and they were like horticulturalist. So maybe, like, that's not what I'm doing now as my like day job, but like, at least they kind of saw something in me that maybe I didn't see until later on.
Serendipity.
But
Yeah.
but
But I'll say it again. We need you guys. We need your
mm,
experience, and you are the kind of, when we come out the far side, when we have the right to grow, when we have these different, because it's going to happen, because it has to happen. We have to have a quantum leap here. This is a nonsense to continue in the situation that it is, criminalizing people and all that. I mean, do you have hopes for this citizens assembly? Did you pay any attention to it? Were we 1 week?
um, I have been paying a bit of attention to it. I do think there's hope in it. Um, there has been, and I can see why, some concern over appointments made and people advisory groups and stuff to do with the citizens assembly. Um, but Irish people aren't stupid, right? That's the one thing I will say about this, is that if Fine Gael wanted to turn this country into like people who believe every word they say, they went the wrong way about it, because the teachers in this country, like that I had when I was in school, and the education that I got here, and the education that everybody got here, was pretty amazing. And we weren't taught to be stupid, like, and we can spot BS a mile away. So I don't think I don't think the Irish people are really for this anymore. And I just want to say this one quote, and then that's all I'm going to say. It's from basically this fella who used to work for Richard Nixon, right?
Right.
And he was a policy advisor, domestic policy advisor, working in the Nixon administration, and for the campaign before he was elected, and then in the administration. And some reporter went to track him down in the 90s to talk about drug policies that they had when Nixon was in power. And he was getting, your man, this was in the 90s when this journalist tracked him down, and he was getting really annoyed, thick basically, because this journalist was asking him a load of questions, and he just exploded. And he basically told the truth. Like he got angry and he let it all out. So I'm just going to tell you exactly what he said. And like, I really think the Irish people, when they know the history of where we're at now, wouldn't support it, right?
How we got here.
So he said, exactly. He said that the Nixon campaign in 1968 and the White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. Do you understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So that's why Patrick Moore's sitting in jail. That is what we have based our policy on. That's now we have decided that, like, to follow America, because that's the danger in having like policies like that coming out of America, because they're so culturally influential that other countries think that they're morally correct, and then we follow them. And I don't think there was ever any bad intention by governments in Ireland at the time to make criminals out of addicts, but that is the natural fruit of the seed. That's the flower of the seed, if you'll pardon the grower's pun. The seeds that we planted when we prohibited cannabis in the first place, is that we've criminalized people now. People can't get jobs, and then it's pushing them further away from society than they already are by committing the act of growing. And like, believe me when I tell you, like, you're not, like, you feel it every day. Like, you feel the worry of having someone come bust down your door, and you worry every time the doorbell rings. And if you see a guard car like driving past your house, you're like, oh God. And
For a victimless
so exactly, like, because I'm not, the only victim in this, in my case, is my own wallet, like, because my ESB bill's through the roof. But like, everything that I spend on growing, like, it's spent in a legal way. It's either my electricity bill, or I'm buying it off the grow shop, where you can, but the
you
point
pay
is, the money.
tax.
Exactly, I pay taxes on everything that I buy. So it's legal for me to buy the seeds, it's legal for me to buy the soil, it's legal for me to buy the nutrients, and it's legal for me to buy the light, but it's not legal for me to actually germinate the seed and grow it using all those means. So it's not like, you do feel it, and it is a constant kind of worry that, like, somebody's going to smell something, or guards are going to come knocking, and then what are you going to do? Because, like, when it's politicians, like, there's a politician in the Dáil now, who's been sending inappropriate messages to the minors, and they won't release his name. But if you're convicted of having cannabis, you're published in the paper, your name and your address and your photograph if they can get it, and your ma's like upset, and da 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 da. So like, nobody wants that. So I can understand, like, why growers they don't really talk on it. But like, at the end of the day, like, I'd encourage a lot of people to come and talk to you if they
I have quite a few what I call them persecuted growers in the pipeline that we're going to be talking with, and so I'm going to. I mean, you are like almost a section within this kind of world of people who are the future of this industry when we eventually kind of get our act together and straighten it, and it gets straightened out, because we need expertise. We need the fact that everything that about delivering. I don't know if you're going to be a part of the craft industry afterwards, hopefully.
Oh, I'd love to be. That's kind of, I'd love to just like I love trimming. Like my favorite process in the whole grow is when you get to the end and you've dried
Right.
it. Like, because I do a full dry trim and a very light, when it's wet, I only take a little bit off it and then I hang it for like a week and a half. And then do a full dry trim and take up all the leaf, because the leaf has chlorophyll, and the chlorophyll burns. So if you're smoking weed and you get a burn in the back of your throat, that's from the chlorophyll and the sugars. So it's not been cured for long
Top
enough.
tip.
Yeah. So like I love sitting down with a bucket in front of me and just trim it, take all the leaf away, and then you're putting it in the jar. That's the last thing you have to do with it now before you can smoke it.
Tell us about the curing. You're curing. I've discovered that curing is a very important part of the process.
Yeah, so curing then essentially is when your bud is dry, you're putting it in ideally a glass jar if you can get them, but airtight, and put them in the dark. There are humidity packs that you can buy that will keep the humidity in your jar at the right percentage to allow you to preserve your bud for a long time.
Yeah.
So you would need like the bed. Ideally, what a lot of growers would say would be like essentially the process of curing is to break down any remaining sugars or chlorophyll that are in your plant, because when you smoke them, it'll be still quite harsh. Like you'll cough and you'll feel a little burn in the back of your throat. That's essentially chlorophyll and sugar that hasn't broken down in the drying process yet. So ideally what you want to do is leave it for 3 weeks. Burp your jars every day. Now, when I say burp, for the first week, take all the bud out and lay it on your tray, lay it wherever, just for 5 minutes, pop it back in the jar, seal it up again, put it away. After a week, then what I
No
do is just
danger of damaging the trichomes there.
um
Taking them out and putting them back.
no, as long as you're gentle with it, you should be fine. And then when you get to week 2, you're just opening the jar lid for 5 minutes and then closing it again. And then at week 3, I stop burping. After that, then at the end of week 3, you can start smoking away. Like you can obviously smoke it as soon as it's dry, but it's gonna burn. Like it is gonna hurt you, because it's not properly the chlorophyll isn't properly broken down at that stage. But the reason why I got into this whole conversation about trimming is that yes, I'd love to be doing artisan hand trimmed weed, because that I would literally sit for 8 hours every day and just do that, like just trim away.
Therapeutic.
Because I think like a lot of people get cali weed now, and it's round, it's very rounded. There's no kind of natural kind of contours or whatever of the bud in it, and that's from putting it through a trimming machine to basically take all the leaf off. It doesn't even take all, sorry, I'm like, Mrs. Doyle when she got the teas made for Christmas. I'm like that when it comes to trimming machines. I'm like, no. But no, like
Have
they're
another trim
obviously.
there, Father.
Exactly. Like a lot of it, I know they have their purpose, but like, no, I'd be one of these people like hand trimmed Irish weed, and like it'll be federally legal in America at some point in the future. And once it is, and I can export it internationally, then we'll be making buck, and that's the plan. But like,
Yeah.
it does make me very, very happy to grow, and I can see why other people grow as well. Like it's very good for your mental health, and
Yeah,
it's
I
good
would add
for your
to
wallet
that.
too.
I just add the kind of experience. Well, I'm here in Barcelona, and I have a little terrace behind me, and on that terrace I grow my medicine, and that'll be. We didn't talk strains yet and things like that. So the strains that I would go for is the kind. I like the blueberry ones because a bit of body high to kind of for helps with the sleep at nighttime. But this is the thing that through the social clubs here in Barcelona, I mean, I was able to do trial and error and try that and try indica, try that sativa, try that. So trying as many strains as you can, and there's kind of access to it, and then you get growing with the things that you've kind of discovered is good for you. For years, I had a lot of problems with the water here in Barcelona, which is that we were talking pH, and so like I was on a different side of town. The water was very bad, and I couldn't grow for years. But then now I've done two years of growing here, and it's perfect for. I mean, we obviously have the sun here. This is an outdoor grow I'm talking, so I mean, but which is kind of more prone maybe to bugs and different issues. But thankfully, I have had no real issues, and I just can't believe that. And every time that I go to my jar, which is buried away in the cupboard, because it turns to CBN. They say the THC will turn to CBN if it's exposed to the light, and so how you got it hidden away. And but it means that whenever I need to fill, I vape, have a PAX 3. Don't have it here, but I use a PAX 3 vape, and I will fill a bowl every night. And I mean, you know how long it lasts. I mean, I don't. The social clubs are there, but I don't need to go. You know, it's like because I'm growing my own weed, and it's amazing the amount of money saved is just
Oh
ridiculous.
yeah, it is. It's great. Like even though some of the stuff that I'm talking about, like lights, intense, and neutral, whatever, yeah, it's a good big outlay. It might be like 500-600 euros to get you set up, but that's like what, an ounce and a half on the black market, and after that you're totally self-sufficient.
Yeah, and
So
you go harvest to harvest.
exactly. So as for strains now, I do want to talk about like the strains that I tend to favor for anxiety are lemon strains with limonene in them. Now cannabis, as we all know now, and like with legalization in other parts of the world, there's loads of different varieties of strains and flavors and new breeds and everything. It's a really exciting time to be a cannabis consumer or a grower, to be honest, because you're getting seeds for all these new strains all the time, and it's great. But for each strain has different terpenes. So terpenes are like flavor, taste, stuff like that. Limonene is a terpene, and it contains the cannabinoids. Like terpenes contain all the cannabinoids as well as the flavor and the taste. So limonene is a really good terpene for anxiety. It's one that they've studied for that, and that's why I tend to favor growing those. But if you're trying to buy off the black market, you're getting whatever they have. It could be lemon haze and then you're fine. But if it's something else that might not agree with you, then it could make you anxious. It could not work for you or have no effect at all. Or it could just be CBD flower that's been sprayed with some synthetic cannabinoid, and you've gotten something that's not even a real cannabis plant anymore. So it is, I would encourage anyone, if you have the space and you can afford the investment to get the outlet, like get your lights and all of that. Like if you, it's not a lot of work to maintain them once they're started off. And like really the only real work in it comes once you get to the end and you're harvesting and chopping it down. But like there's plenty of forums, plenty of support out there for anyone who wants to grow. There's like online groups like Percy's, or there's YouTube channels, the ones I've already mentioned. There's Discord groups, all that thing. Like there's any,
Okay.
even on Twitter, like you'll find growers who'll very happily help you if you reach out and ask for any assistance.
Yeah, it's a community.
So
The community is there for
exactly, like
helping each
uh,
other.
they're the kindest, honestly, some of the kindest people in the world. Like I would know Martin Condon, and I've been on Martin's World, and honestly, the people that I met through there are just some of the most wonderful and kind people. And like people in the cannabis community in Ireland would do anything for you, as even evidenced by Patrick Moore, who was making oil for people, and now look where, like, he's in prison at the moment. But like what he was doing was a huge act of kindness for
Yeah,
somebody who was very ill.
didn't need
And
to.
he's
Didn't need to do it.
exactly, he didn't have to do it, and
Yeah,
he was doing it out of kindness, and he should not be punished for kindness. like,
And I think
especially in a world where things are getting so, like, times now are a lot harder for people, like, it can be easier now to be a mean person. It's so much harder to do the right thing and be kind, and he should not be in prison at all.
that's
And
the shocking thing, that
yeah,
that he's paying for his kindness, and it's insane, and it makes the blood boil, you know. And like you said, we have we have the criminal gangs are out there, you know. Deep crime, I feel like, is going to be the low hanging fruit that might get passed through some it will get recommended from the Citizens Assembly, but I mean that keeps the black market going, and we need to kind of move past this black market.
yeah,
And,
exactly.
so, I mean, decrim is not, while it's a very handy slogan for some of the politicians. They're putting it in badges and everything, and all of that, and it's kind of following the repeal, you know, kind of slogans. And so I'm hoping that that we see kind of beyond that. This that idea of of going to the black market, and and you're looking, you don't know what you're getting. You really don't know what you're getting.
Exactly.
I have another hat, I have a comedy promoter hat, and I've been comedy promoter here in Spain for 18 years, and I had a blind boy here in June,
Oh,
and
wow.
and blind boy did a show with me, and his guest was a lady from Cork. Can be found on Instagram. Kyla Cobbler is her name, and she's is a bud tender in a club down the city called Guru, a very nice little cannabis club, and really nice weed, very conscientious, kind of what the weed they're providing, all of that, and that's kind of how it is here in Barcelona. So, but the thing that Blind Boy made a joke, you know, he said. He said that himself and Kyla were talking about strains, and she's a bud tender, so she knew her strains backwards. And I don't know when that talk will come out. I'm sure he put it out at some stage, but it was like he was talking about how people in Ireland go to the dealer, and the only strain they get is, do you want it or not?
Exactly. Yeah, he's not wrong there. Like, oh, he's definitely not wrong there.
Yeah.
But no, I'd say, like, it's sad at the minute to see the way things are, but I am very hopeful, like, that the Citizens Assembly will help. And yeah, I think we need to be braver as well. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
decrim is a good first step, but we might, like, if you're starting, I always firmly believe, if you're starting from a negotiating position, ask for everything that you want. And then you might only get half of it, but even a halfway step is better than no step at all. So we might as well go full haul and ask, just
Yeah.
legalize it. We need
Students are asking.
farmers.
Students are asking for legalization. I'm a big fan of this, of pushing the students. And I had Ryan McHale on here. Like, I'm just finished that edit and a few things like that. But the reason I push the SSDP people is because they all have a vote, and if they get their act together as a power, as a force, then politicians have, well, you know, they're all on fine lines. Half those politicians, they're all getting in on 15 counts and all this nonsense.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Like, it's like, would you not want to do so? Like, do you know, like, people under 40 hate most of you. Would you not do something like this? Is
yeah,
something that you could do that they might actually like you for, like, and it's kind of like, are you that, like, I can see, like, the Green Party basically, they had Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael by the cojones after the last election. Realistically, they could have asked for anything they wanted, and because Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil were so afraid of going back to the electorate, because obviously Leo got re-elected. He was the first Taoiseach in the history of the state to not get re-elected on the first count. He got re-elected on the fifth.
yeah.
So, and then, like, there was an awful lot of nail
Harris, I
biters
believe,
there.
is Simon Donnelly's 15th count. You know
I
what I
know,
mean?
and some of
People
them
are
didn't
not.
even make the quota, and, like, you're kind of looking at these people and giving them the side eye, going, for your own political survival,
Yeah,
for the survival of your farmer voters who need to divest away from beef, no matter how much you keep telling them they don't.
yeah.
Like, at some point they're going to have to. You need to start giving people an out. You need, like, our courts are packed to the rafters with people getting prosecuted for joints, or, like, possession of a controlled substance or whatever, like if these are just possession charges, like would you not be better off just decriminalizing? You're packing, like this is just packing the courts with absolute nonsense, and then other like genuine issues are getting pushed back years because the courts are clogged up with this. Our health service is clogged. We can't afford to pay our nurses the going rate to keep them in the country. But you know, if we had like tax money coming from cannabis, if it was fully legalized, then there would be revenue flowing into the state. We'd be the only English speaking country in Europe with legal cannabis. We'd be beating away the tourists, like literally beating away the tourists.
You
And we
already have
already
the
do that.
tourism industry.
Exactly. And like, I mean, American tourists will buy turf flavored scented candles. They would be falling over themselves to buy like an ounce of weed grown in the Emerald Isle. Like, come
We
on.
have
Like,
the green is the color.
yeah. And I mean, even Joe Biden now has come out and said that sending someone to prison for possession of cannabis, like, is the wrong thing to do. Like, so, you know, we need to start like growing up a little bit and having
We
the
have people like
having the
Leo.
tough.
People like Leo hanging out with Justin Trudeau. I mean, what kind of conversation do they have? Like, I mean, you know, they spend it when they're on their visits and stuff. It's always a lot. They're talking about socks and all sorts of bullshit, you know. But
Yeah.
there has to be conversation. Hey, Justin, you legalized there 5 years ago. How's that working out? And I look at it. It's still going to be complex, and I'm happy the Citizens Assembly is going to be pulling things apart for us. And so look at. I think we'll wrap it up there, Green Tea. It's been amazing as ever. You're an
Oh, it
amazing.
has.
Yeah, you're an amazing speaker, and like I said, you're a leader of our craft industry to come. And yourself, Patrick Moore, and all these we have a wealth of knowledge, and I'm going to be having a few kind of as I call them, persecuted growers, and they are being persecuted, you know, and so this is something we're kind of highlighting here as well. So look, it's been great, and I'm going to wrap it up. We've kind of and look, we hope to. We don't want to. We're not going to hear about you again because that possibly would be in a bad way.
Oh no, hopefully not. No, well, if ever there comes a day where it's legal, I'll actually put up a profile picture of myself, and then everybody will know what I look like. But
there you go.
for the moment, hopefully now you won't be hearing anything bad about me getting arrested in the next like few months. But I'm very hopeful now that we'll be able to put this to bed with the Citizens Assembly as long as they're given all the correct information. So fingers crossed on that. And thank you so much for asking me to come and speak to you. It's been an honor.
And it's been a pleasure, man. And like I said, you inspired me when I heard you. And that's the thing. You're somebody who empowered yourself, and we can grow medicine. It's like I'm here 2 hours away from. People can't. You have to realize this. I'm 2 hours away from Dublin on a flight. How many people go to Barcelona all the time? There'll be hundreds of Irish people landing here tomorrow. 2 hours away, and here I can have my 4 plants outside. I can grow my medicine, and that's the difference. And we've got social clubs where I can hang out with people. We can talk, adults talking, and the place, the city is not teeming. This is a good city. I don't know if you've been here lately, but I mean, the place is not teeming with psychotic teens like these prohibitionists would have you believe that that's going to be the fate. So look at. This has been great, and we're going to continue these talks. And let's see. I'm doing this as a kind of complementary to the. It's not an alternative, but it's a complementary to the Citizens Assembly, just to show more voices that are at the cold front. The cold front. I don't know what is there a wheat front, and the
green front.
The green front.
front.
And get that out there. So we're wrapping at that. Thanks a lot, Green Tea.
Thank you, and speak to you soon.
Very
Bye-bye.
good. Bye.